Hi, welcome to Crime Clueless. We're your hosts. I'm Jenna.
And I'm Laura.
We are here on this beautiful December day, ready to dive into another case.
Yes. How has your week been?
It's been good. Just so busy this time of year.
Always. It's like everything happens. End of year stuff, or like end of semester stuff for school, and end of year parties and holiday parties. And it's so much fun, but just so much.
Yes. Keeping it all straight and making sure you have what you need for all the different ones.
I know. And we're still trying to finish up sports. We have our final games this weekend. It's just crazy.
Fun.
But
yeah,
it's all fun.
It is fun.
Yeah.
Exhausted.
Well, that's how we feel.
Exhausted. I know, right? Exhausted. Oh, well, should we jump into this case?
Yes, I can't wait to hear it.
All right. Before she became a headline, before her name was linked forever with a disgraced ex-cop and a barrel that's never been found, Stacy Ann Kales was just a girl from the suburbs trying to make something of herself. Her story didn't begin with a disappearance. It began on January 20th, 1984, in Downers Grove, Illinois, with circumstances that were, to put it mildly, far from ideal. Stacy's early years were marked by more tragedy than most of us will experience in a lifetime. Her parents, Anthony and Christy Kales, had a troubled marriage. Alcohol was ever present, and so were the fights. Just 3 weeks before Stacy was born, the family suffered a devastating loss. A house fire took the life of their 2-year-old daughter, Jessica.
So sad. So sad.
I can't even imagine dealing with that loss right as you're about to give birth.
Yeah.
It would be horrific.
Yeah. Anytime it would be, but
absolutely
it's terrible.
3 years later, Stacy's baby sister, Lacey, died of sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS. 2 children gone before Stacy even turned 4.
Oh, that's awful.
And in their household, grief didn't bring healing, it brought chaos. Christy, Stacy's mother, spiraled into alcoholism and deep depression. She was often missing for days. She racked up arrests at this time for DUI, for shoplifting, alcohol and cigarettes, and even for battery. She cycled through psychiatric hospitals, while Stacy and her siblings tried to make sense of the wreckage. When Stacy was 6 years old, her father Anthony filed for divorce from Christy after Christy set fire to his clothes and smashed out his car windshield.
Oh, wow.
Christy didn't show up for court, so Anthony was granted full custody. Unfortunately, that custody didn't come with stability. The children were shuffled across state lines. They were often left to fend for themselves. Stacy later told people there were times where they were alone for weeks, like 3 weeks at a time, without any parent present. They didn't go to school continuously. Yeah. Often there were no groceries in the home. It was just about survival. Through it all, the kids in the household grew incredibly close. It was them against the world. And the bond between Stacy and her younger sister, Cassandra, became unshakable. Eventually, the family moved back to Illinois, landing in Bolingbrook, which was a growing suburb with tidy lawns and affordable split levels. But even here, peace was elusive. Their mother, Christy, remained on the periphery, still struggling, unfortunately still unreliable. Then came March 11th, 1998. Christy told the family she was going to church or maybe to visit a friend, but she never came back. At that time, Stacy was 14. There was no goodbye, no note. They just didn't ever see her again. Oh, and to this day, Christy Kales remains missing. Her daughters believe she was murdered, likely by a live-in boyfriend that she was tangled up with at the time. Her case is profiled on the Charlie Project, but there have never been charges. And they've never had closure for the family. God. And yeah, That's
Had
maybe
a lot of tragedy in their family. That's awful.
yes. And we're not done, which
We're
is
not done. No.
horrific. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And maybe the fact that her mom disappeared and there was no closure makes these later events in Stacy's life so much harder to accept because Stacy knew the pain of a mother who vanished. She lived it. She promised she would never do that to her own children. And I will say right now, I don't think that she did. After Christy's disappearance, Anthony couldn't manage the household any longer. The siblings scattered. Cassandra was taken in by her employer, which I don't necessarily understand because she was the younger sister. And so if Stacy was 14, I mean, maybe it was a few years later, but that's what the reporting says. The employer became her legal guardian. Stacy moved in with her older half sister, whose name is Tina, who was Christy's daughter. So Stacy's mom's daughter from a previous relationship. Tina gave Stacy structure. She gave her care, something that Stacy had really never had. And Stacy blossomed during this time. She worked hard. She graduated from high school at just 16 years old. And she set her sights on nursing school at Joliet Junior College. She was so smart, self-driven, and really, despite everything she'd been through, she was gentle and kind and caring. She was fiercely loyal to her family. They say she had a laugh that drew people in, no matter where she was. She wanted something better for herself. She wasn't going to raise her children or her family in the future the way that she had grown up. To help her pay for college, Stacy took a job as a night shift desk clerk at a local Spring Hill Suites hotel. She worked late, quietly managing the comings and goings of suburban travelers. It was 2001, and she was 17 years old. And that's when he started showing up. A Bolingbrook police sergeant working nights often stopped by the hotel on security checks. He was more than twice her age. He was 30 years older than she was.
Oh, wow.
Drew
So he's
Peterson.
47?
Yep. He was 47. He was married with kids and apparently bored enough to strike up long conversations with the teenage clerk behind the front desk.
Ugh.
Eventually, those conversations turned to flirtation, and flirtation turned to something else. Stacy, barely out of high school and only because she graduated early, started dating Drew Peterson, who easily old enough to be her father. And he was still married to his third wife, Kathleen Savio. He had a history of failed marriages and some disturbing allegations. And just like that, Stacy's story took a turn. Drew Walter Peterson was born January 5th, 1954, in Bolingbrook, Illinois, back when the town was still finding its footing, and so was he. He was the son of a strict Marine. Drew grew up knowing that orders weren't optional and discipline was part of family life. He channeled that rigidity into school, sports, work. He developed a reputation as a hard worker and a rule follower, sort of.
Until he dates the underage teenager.
Yeah. So,
Sorry.
no, it's exactly right. Even if she is almost 18, she's not 18.
Yeah, she's still 17. And he's married.
Yeah. He really liked enforcing the rules more than following them himself, we should say.
Yeah.
His dream was law enforcement. In 1974, he joined the military police, the first step in a lifelong obsession with control. That same year, he married his high school girlfriend, Carol Hamilton, a seemingly normal start to what would become a spectacularly abnormal relationship track record. By 1977, Drew left the military and joined the Bolingbrook Police Department, a force he'd remain tethered to officially or not for the next 3 decades. He wasn't just competent, he was ambitious. In 1978, Drew was handpicked to join the Metropolitan Area Narcotics Squad, which is an elite assignment, and it meant working undercover. 1 year later, he was named Officer of the Year by the department. His star was rising. And I find as I'm putting together his early timeline, all of this has happened, and Stacy still hasn't even been born.
Yeah.
And
I was
won't
just
be for
thinking that.
5 more years.
Yeah.
In 1985, Drew went too far. He launched an unauthorized investigation, reportedly failed to report a bribe, and went on a few unsanctioned vigilante police adventures. So, not great.
No.
The department had enough and fired him for disobedience and misconduct. But Drew knew how to work a system, especially one he'd been part of building. A judge eventually reinstated him, but his days in the elite units were over. He was a sergeant now, on patrol. He had a uniform, a badge, and an ego twice the size of Bolingbrook. Meanwhile, his personal life was unraveling just as fast. Drew and Carol had 2 sons, Eric and Stephen, but the marriage couldn't survive his extracurricular activities. When Carol discovered he'd been cheating, she divorced him in 1980. Drew didn't exactly slow down. He rebounded and started dating a 20-year-old named Kyle Peary. Within months, they were engaged. That lasted not very long. She broke it off when Drew started getting controlling and physically aggressive, reporting that he once shoved her to the ground, pinning her arms there. She also later reported that Drew stalked and harassed her. He would issue bogus traffic tickets. He would tail her when she was driving around town. She filed complaints. The system shrugged.
Did they get married or were they still engaged at this point?
I don't believe that they got officially married.
Okay.
They were just engaged and then she broke it off.
Okay.
In 1982, he did get married again, though. This time to a woman named Vicki Connolly. She was a 23-year-old single mom. Drew was 28 at this time. Together, they ran a local dive called the Suds Bar, which, sounds exactly like the kind of place where a cop with a superiority complex might enjoy spending time, I guess. Vicki would later say the marriage was abusive and toxic. Her daughter alleged that she endured 10 years of physical and emotional violence.
It's not his daughter. It's her daughter from a previous relationship.
Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah. She said that he would beat her with a belt and call it discipline. Vicki says that he once told her straight-faced that he could, quote, kill her and make it look like an accident.
Nice.
Yeah. That marriage ended in 1992, following, you probably guessed it, another affair. This time, Drew was starting to date, whatever you want to call it, a woman named Kathleen Savio. She was a 27-year-old bookkeeper who had no idea that Drew was still married. Drew was nothing if not persuasive. He was known as charming, lavish, manipulative. Kathleen was dazzled by the first 2 of those, the charming and the lavish. He gave her attention, gifts, and most importantly, stability. The kind of love bombing that makes you overlook those huge red flags that are popping up. Once his divorce with Vicki was finalized, Drew married Kathleen and moved her into a new home in Bolingbrook. They had 2 sons, Thomas and Christopher. After their honeymoon phase, though, Drew turned on Kathleen like he had in his previous relationships. He allegedly insulted her constantly, calling her names, degraded her appearance. Family members said he was also physically abusive, one time throwing her against a refrigerator, another time shoving her into a table, and even once sending her to the emergency room with a head injury. Kathleen reportedly told doctors that she fell, but police were notified anyways because the doctors didn't believe that, but nothing happened.
Oh, that's too bad.
I know. There's so many
That's so sad.
chances for this to go differently, which breaks my heart.
Yeah, that's awful.
Mm-hmm. By 2001, Drew was no longer bothering to hide his affairs. Kathleen received an anonymous letter warning her that Drew was having a relationship with a 17-year-old Bolingbrook city employee. The letter claimed, quote, "Everyone in the department knows it's an ongoing joke," which is just an extra gut punch,
extra slap to the face.
Right.
Awful.
They also said that Drew was protected by his political connections and his police badge.
Yeah.
Which we'll find
Unfortunately.
was very true. Yet
Yeah.
Kathleen confronted him. He denied it, but unknown to her, Drew and the woman or teenager that he was dating, Stacy, were, and this is just mind-blowing, they were already sleeping together in the basement of the family home while Kathleen and the kids were upstairs.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. That's horrific.
It is. I can't even imagine.
No.
Within weeks of meeting Stacy in 2001, Drew Peterson was actively courting her. He even helped Stacy get a new job working for the village of Bolingbrook, which is why when the letter was sent, it said she was a city employee when he met her working for the Spring Hill Suites.
And so he has kids older than her, right?
Yes.
Like his boys are older than her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because she was born in 1984.
Yeah.
And he got divorced from his first wife in 1980, and they had the 2 sons before.
Yeah.
He got her this new job working for the city so that he could see her more often and on his terms, essentially. Shockingly, he more or less moved Stacy into the Peterson home, setting her up in the basement without his wife even knowing.
How would that work? I wonder.
I don't know.
Don't you go in the basement? Was she silent in the basement? It seems.
How do you come and go? It has to have its own door, right?
You would think it would have to if she's coming and going and living there without her knowing. And kind of wonder if she did have an idea and just didn't believe it or was in denial. Because I can't imagine someone living in your basement and you not knowing.
That's the stuff of nightmares. That is,
Yeah.
I mean, if it was a different kind of story, someone living in your basement, that's mind-blowing.
Yeah. I mean, you would have to dismiss everything that you heard coming from, like every little sound or anything.
Right.
I hear something fall upstairs and what's happening?
Yeah.
You can hear things. I'm guessing their basement wasn't soundproof.
I'm sure it wasn't in the 90s. He moved her in 2001, but it wasn't built then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Far-fetched, or like his wife was in denial. Or he told her some other story. If he said he had a friend who was living down there, could have said it was one of his buddies who needed a place to stay.
But wouldn't you, if someone was staying with me, I would make food and then take it to them, or I don't know.
At least want to know who it is.
Yeah. Especially if he's off at work and that person is still in your home.
And you have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know.
2 younger boys. Yeah.
Yeah.
So along those lines, Drew had told Stacy that him and Kathleen were over. It just wasn't finalized yet. So to me, that would make it, why couldn't you make noise or go upstairs if she knows, right?
Yeah. And is he never coming home? Wouldn't she wonder why he's staying upstairs sometimes and other times with her?
I would think so. I don't.
Bizarre situation.
Agreed. Not a situation I would want to be in either.
Nope. Not on any part of that.
Mm-mm. So that was 2001. In 2002, Kathleen filed for divorce. Drew counterfiled, and the battle was ugly. Police were called to their home 18 times between 2002 and 2004. A lot of times, both Kathleen and Drew were named as aggressors, but, and this won't shock you, only Kathleen was ever arrested, and she was arrested twice.
Wow.
Charges were dropped against her, but Drew was never arrested and never charged with anything. In one especially chilling incident in July of 2002, Kathleen reported that Drew broke into her home, held her at knife point, and forced her to sit silently on the stairs for 2 hours. He was furious about child support, she said, and threatened to kill her if she moved. Drew told police later, when she reported it, that the encounter was calm, even calling it flirtatious. That Kathleen had flashed him during this time and said to him, "Don't you miss this?" So he's trying to make her sound crazy, delusional, like she's lying. I'm all the things.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And he just
Kathleen,
gets away with it.
yeah. And she's the one that gets charged or villainized. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Kathleen felt abandoned by this system that's supposed to protect her. She wrote a
rightfully
desperate,
so.
right? I'm glad that she didn't just say, okay, this is the way it is.
Yeah.
She wrote a desperate letter to the Will County State's attorney in November 2002. In it, she warned, he knows how to manipulate the system, and his next step is to take my children away or kill me instead. But even with that in hand, no one would give her a protection order. Nothing. Kathleen later said she was worried about costing Drew his job because she needed that paycheck. She knew that she wouldn't have the means to support her sons if he didn't have to pay child support because he didn't have an income.
Yeah. It's a terrible
Meanwhile,
situation to be in.
oh, absolutely. Especially with it being in the law enforcement. I think that would be really difficult to go through. Drew was becoming increasingly obsessed with protecting his assets. A preliminary divorce hearing indicated that Kathleen would get the house, child support, maintenance, and part of his police pension. He was real mad about that.
Oh,
There were other shared assets between the two of them, like vehicles, businesses, cash investments. And for a man whose identity was built on control, divorce seemed like not an option anymore to him. By spring of 2002, so before she filed for divorce in the summer, Drew and Stacy moved into a house just a few blocks away from Kathleen's. He said it was so he could be near his two sons and stay active in their lives. But according to Kathleen, the move had less to do with him being a great father and more to do with taunting her as she tries to obtain this divorce. She alleged that Drew and Stacy would rollerblade by her house or drive past slowly. She felt like it was to remind her that he'd traded up, which is so awful.
Yeah, that's really sad for her.
Mm-hmm. She wasn't just dealing with a divorce at this point. She was literally living next door to it.
Yeah.
By July of 2003, Stacy was pregnant, so the divorce is not final yet. And she gave birth to their first child, who they named Anthony. She and Drew, like I said, weren't technically married yet. So to speed things along, Drew's divorce with Kathleen had been split into two parts. They had the custody and legal dissolution of their marriage. And then the second part would be the division of their assets and the child support payments and all of that. The arrangement allowed Drew to do what he'd been wanting to do. He could marry Stacy once the first marriage was officially, or not the first, the third, once that one was officially dissolved. The divorce became official on October 10th, 2003. 8 days later, Drew and Stacy tied the knot. The final hearing to divide the marital property, including the house, the cash, the pensions, other assets, was scheduled for April 2004, so about 6 months after the marriage dissolution. However, on the weekend of February 27th, 2004, Drew had custody of his boys. The boys spent the day of the 28th at home with Drew and Stacy. And the next day, which was leap year, February 29th, the family took a trip into Chicago for an outing. That night, Drew took the boys back to Kathleen's house, but something was wrong. There was no answer at the door. He tried calling her and nothing. The next day, March 1st, Drew was continuing trying to reach Kathleen. Still no response. That evening, he returned to the house again, and he still couldn't get inside, so he called a locksmith. Not a police officer, a locksmith. He also went and got 2 neighbors to go in with him. He later explained that he didn't want to be accused of doing anything inappropriate in the house and needed witnesses, which I suppose is a smart move if you know people are going to start asking questions later.
Yeah.
The neighbors entered the home. They made their way upstairs calling out for Kathleen, and made their way up to the master bathroom, and they found a nightmare. Kathleen Savio was dead. She was nude, lying face down in a dry bathtub. Her hair was damp. She had bruising. The bathtub itself was empty. She wasn't just unconscious. She had been dead for some time.
God.
Hearing the neighbors scream, Drew reportedly then ran upstairs. One of these neighbors, a man named Steve, later told media that Drew appeared distraught, shocked, emotional, and that when Bolingbrook police arrived, their response was, let's call it efficient. Police at the scene quickly concluded that it was an accident. It was a slip and fall. They noted no obvious signs of a struggle. They took a couple notes. They called the coroner. There was no crime scene tape, no forensic sweep, no deep dive into Kathleen's past allegations, nothing about her ongoing divorce. At this point, she is weeks away from their final proceedings, splitting assets and everything.
Yeah.
No second look at her ongoing divorce. Drew was questioned informally at the station. Stacy was interviewed at home with Drew sitting right next to her, not alone. Both said the same thing. Drew had been home all night. The autopsy later found that Kathleen had died by accidental drowning, noting a head laceration and that the dampness in her hair was not water, but blood. The tub had been dry. Yep.
So sad. Yeah.
So sad. Because if she slipped and fell and drowned, then the tub would be full.
Yeah.
If she slipped and fell and was still filling up the tub, the water would still be on. So
Right.
how do you conclude that? It makes no sense.
Was there blood in the tub at least?
It was such
I mean, we would have to, right?
It was on her head.
Yeah.
So you would think so. And maybe there was, and they just said, okay, it was from hitting her head when she fell. And there's not a ton of information because it wasn't really treated as a crime scene.
Yeah.
Somehow, no one found the dry tub particularly concerning. A coroner's jury quickly ruled it accidental, despite the fact that multiple family members testified that Kathleen had been afraid for her life and that Drew had threatened to kill her in the past. No foul play, case closed. Well,
you said they had been out of town, or had they come back and it was the next day that he was going to her house?
They just went into the city for the day.
Oh, they weren't like
into
staying in the city.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Just gone for the day.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. Kathleen's sudden death had immediate legal consequences. Since the divorce's property part had not yet taken place, all marital assets defaulted to Drew. So just like that, the house, the vehicles, the savings, his pension, they were all just his. Kathleen's lawyer later contested a handwritten will dated 1997, which Drew conveniently found. It left each spouse's assets to the other. The problem was that Kathleen had allegedly told her attorney that she had no will. And then there was the life insurance, as there always is. Kathleen had a $1 million policy in place for the benefit of her sons. But as their custodial parent, it was Drew who now had control of that money, or at the very least, control over how and when the boys could access it. He essentially inherited not just her assets, but everything. It was like the divorce had never happened, except they were legally not married now, and he, married Stacy.
That's so crazy that happened that way.
Yeah.
They were divorced.
Infuriating.
Because it took so long for the other part.
Mm-hmm.
Like they didn't get divorced.
It essentially gave him an extra 6 months.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, heartbreaking.
How old were her boys at this time? Do you know?
They had gotten married in 1992. So the boys were less than 10 at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. Or maybe around 10 for the oldest, but still young enough that their mama.
And young enough that those assets probably couldn't have just been passed to them instead of going to Drew.
Right. No one in law enforcement raised serious questions because when a cop's wife slips in the tub and the cop says he was home all night and then the coroner agrees, the police don't push back, the story ends where it started.
Yeah. Sad.
It is. We mentioned that Drew and Stacy had a son in July of 2003. They had a daughter quickly after. She was born in 2005. Stacy found herself this young wife and now also a stepmom too, because even though Drew's two boys from his first marriage are no longer living at home, he still has the two that are young enough. So she was helping to raise those two. At first glance, someone who knew the Petersons thought that Stacy and Drew's relationship seemed happy. At the very least, it seemed functional. Despite the huge age gap, Stacy was often described as mature for her age, which makes sense. She had to take care of herself starting from such a young age that that makes sense. She adapted to caring for 4 children really well, but cracks began to show. Drew is more controlling than ever at this point. He's on his 4th wife, could have been 5th, but that one was only an engagement. And by having a younger bride, he really felt like he was in charge of everything. By many accounts, this continued to intensify really quickly. Relatives and friends on Stacy's side later painted Drew as domineering and extremely jealous. He wanted Stacy's life to, quote, revolve around him. He resented her having any even appearance of independence. He didn't want her to have a job outside the house. He didn't really want her to have friends, spend time doing anything that wasn't sitting at home waiting for him to come home from work and then being this doting wife, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yuck. I don't like that.
Remember, Stacy wanted to go to junior college. She wanted to become a nurse. Drew was not happy when she enrolled. A close friend named Pam, who has since become a spokeswoman for Stacy's family, said that Drew was, quote, a very jealous, a very controlling person. He would follow her. He tracked her with GPS on her cell phone. He called her constantly. And in fact, Drew himself admitted that he had told Stacy not to use her cell phone because, quote, she knows you can find people with the phone.
Okay.
is such a telling comment. The police
Yeah.
officer husband warning his wife about how he can track her every move.
Yeah.
Stacy's actions showed that she was getting fed up with the surveillance. 2 weeks before she disappeared, she changed her phone number after finding her phone records in his briefcase. And
Oh,
he had
jeez.
gone through her phone bill and highlighted all the numbers that weren't his or her sister's, anything that he thought might be suspicious. He constantly was accusing her of cheating on him. After, yeah,
Coming from the cheater, that's interesting.
right. It makes sense that he's so worried about that because he's cheated on every wife he's ever had. So
Yeah.
I'm sure he assumes everyone cheats.
So,
Not true.
but it's okay for him and him only, I guess.
Well, yeah, of course. Drew's efforts to monitor her every move continued, and Stacy confided in those close to her that she was scared of what Drew might do, which is telling to me too. I feel like she clearly, and we'll find out, she clearly knew more about what happened to Kathleen
That's
than
what I was
what
just
she
thinking.
told police.
She must have known more, especially if she's scared for her own life now.
Right. By late 2007, Stacy had reached a breaking point. She was only 23, but had been married to Drew for 4 really long years. After her older sister, Tina, died tragically of cancer in 2006, which was really hard for Stacy. That was the sister that took her in when her dad was done. They were really close. That event seemed to help Stacy gain some clarity that life was short and she didn't want to spend it under Drew's control. Family noticed, and I think she said it out loud, that she was considering leaving Drew and she also wanted to take her kids. She wanted to take all 4 kids, even Kathleen's boys. She was
probably seeing the abuse to them too.
Yeah, I think so.
He'd been that way with other kids.
Yes. And ones that weren't even his.
Yeah.
In the weeks before she vanished, Stacy told several people that she wanted a divorce. Her Aunt Susan recalled that just 2 days before she went missing, Stacy had told Drew she planned to divorce him. His reaction was not great. He was not willing to go through another divorce. Stacy was so afraid of what Drew might do that she had given her sister Cassandra, that's the one that was younger than her, a pretty scary warning. She said, if I don't answer my cell, something's wrong and you should check on me. And it was Drew, which is
so awful.
Terrible.
And you got to think, after seeing what happened to Kathleen, she's got to be feeling too, there's nothing I can do. I can't go anywhere. I can't go to the police because they won't even believe me.
She's watched that whole thing play out because she was with Drew from before their divorce even started.
And all the bad things that happened to Kathleen before, that she went to the police and nothing happened from it. Nothing came of it. They dismissed it.
Even sending that letter. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And one fateful Sunday, that radio silence came to Cassandra and she knew something happened. It was Sunday, October 28th, 2007. It began normally enough in the Peterson household, or at least nothing immediately appeared amiss. That morning, Stacy had planned to help a friend named Bruce paint a rental property that he owned in nearby Yorkville. Around 10:15 a.m., Bruce called Stacy and they spoke briefly about the painting job. Bruce told Stacy to hold off until she heard from her sister, Cassandra, who was supposed to join them, before going over to paint. So Stacy agreed. This 10:15 a.m. phone call is the last known time anyone outside of Stacy's home spoke to her. After that, so sad, so tragic. The warning signs were there, but I think it was already too late. By the time she had even started dating him while he was with Kathleen, I think she could probably tell herself it was because he was unhappy with her, right? And she wasn't exactly friends with Kathleen. I'm sure her and Kathleen probably had no relationship at all.
Well, and he could have been blaming Kathleen too, because she got arrested for, domestic upsets and he didn't. He could have been saying, he could have painted himself as innocent in all of that. And it's all on her. She's all these things.
Abby.
And if he's so charming and great to her.
Yeah, helping her get a new job and a place to live and a car. And
and it's not my fault. It's her fault.
Yeah. So after that phone call, it was as if Stacy vanished into thin air. She never showed up to Bruce's apartment. She never called her sister Cassandra back. All we have next are accounts from Drew himself and accounts that would soon be contradicted by evidence and witnesses. According to Drew's story, he last saw Stacy early that morning. Drew claimed that he and Stacy woke up together and that when he woke up late around 11 a.m. that morning, Stacy was supposedly already gone on her own errands. But Drew's timeline and behavior were odd that day, to say the least. So Drew says he got up around 11 a.m. and noticed Stacy wasn't home, which is already fishy because remember at 10:15 a.m., she was on the phone making plans. It's not likely that she would leave with a 2-year-old at home alone and her husband's still asleep.
I was thinking that too. And what kids are still asleep at 11 a.m.?
None. Certainly never a 2-year-old. No.
None of mine sleep past 8:30.
Right. So to think about a 2-year-old and a 4 or 5-year-old still being asleep, and even if they were asleep, she's not leaving them without an adult home taking care,
she's
waiting
not leaving
for them
them
to wake
asleep.
up, feed them. Exactly.
Right.
Around noon, a friend and neighbor named Sharon called Stacy's cell around noon, but got no answer. Concerned, Sharon called Drew instead, and he actually came over to Sharon's house around 1:15 p.m. to pick up some candy that she had for the kids. Sharon later said Drew told her he had to run a quick errand. She saw him leave, and then he came back to her house about 15 minutes later. So at 1:15 to 1:30, Drew was out driving briefly, and this errand has never been fully explained. What was so urgent that only takes 15 minutes?
Yeah.
By mid-afternoon.
Did he have the kids with him?
I believe he left them with her, asked her to watch them for that 15 minutes.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, good question.
And the other boys are getting old enough too. I was just thinking about that because the other boys maybe could watch the younger kids.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they're probably 15.
Could be.
16 at that point.
Yeah. Even 15. If they're 14, a 15 minute. Yeah. Around 2 to 2:30, Stacy's sister Cassandra was still trying to reach Stacy. She'd been expecting to hear about her or have her call her back with the painting plans, but Stacy wasn't answering her phone, which was, quote, completely out of character. Stacy always kept her phone on and answered promptly, according to her family. This was the first big red flag, and Cassandra was worried immediately. Meanwhile, right around this time, Drew made a notable call. He called his supervisor at the police department at 2:30 p.m. and said that he would not be coming in for his 5 p.m. shift that day. His reason, Drew said his wife was missing and he needed to stay home to watch the kids. So let that sink in. By mid-afternoon, Drew was already telling his work that Stacy is missing, but interestingly, he did not call police to report her missing, nor did he call her family to ask if anyone had seen her. Instead, he just told his job that he had a, quote, domestic situation. So that's how his day is going. As the afternoon turned to evening, Cassandra became increasingly alarmed. She drove over to Stacy and Drew's house around 11 p.m. that night after hours of no contact from Stacy. Cassandra banged on the door. No Stacy. Apparently, Drew wasn't home either. Only the children were there, though Drew and Stacy's 2 little ones were 2 and 4. And then, like we just said, his other ones were teenagers now. They were all in the house. It's unclear if someone was watching them or if they were just watching their little brother and sister. Cassandra spoke to the older kids and they told her something unsettling. They said, Mom and Dad had a fight and Mom's at Grandpa's house. So that's innocent. Presumably, they're repeating what their dad had told them. However, Stacy was not at Grandpa's house. That was a lie to give the kids a reason that Mom and Dad weren't home. Panicked, Cassandra immediately tried to call Drew on his cell phone. At 11:26 p.m., she finally reached him. The conversation that followed is something Cassandra has recounted multiple times, and it's chilling. According to Cassandra, Drew's tone was nonchalant, even arrogant. He said, "Your sister left me." Cassandra later recounted that Drew claimed Stacy had called him around 9 p.m. that night to say that she was leaving him for another man and going on a little vacation. He told Cassandra that Stacy had left her car at the Clough International Airport in Bolingbrook. Essentially, Drew is painting this picture that Stacy had run off with some new man, abandoning her children and ditching her car in the process. To make the story even more dramatic, Drew told Cassandra that Stacy had also taken cash, a bikini, and her passport with her. He said she took $25,000 from the safe, her bikini's missing, and her passport's gone. Drew said this also to a family friend, Pam, who we said is the spokesperson for the family now. Then Drew allegedly added this just disgusting line. He claimed that, and he said this to Cassandra, Stacy disappeared just like your mom, which is horrible.
Horrible. Yes.
I don't understand.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really awful.
Cassandra knew instantly that this was complete nonsense. Stacy would never leave her kids, period. And she certainly wouldn't vanish without telling Cassandra or anyone else. She'd already been telling them she wanted to get a divorce and leave him the right way. Yes, all 4.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She certainly would not have just run off with a passport and a bikini and taking money. It's insane.
Well, and that's such a random fact, too. Oh, her bikini's missing. Like, I inventoried her clothes and her bikini's missing. That's a weird thing to say.
Brandon would never know if one of my bikinis was missing.
Yeah.
And it's just
like, are you counting her clothes? It's like, oh, she normally has 15 bikinis and now there's 4. Or her one bikini she took.
Yes, you only bought her one and then you went and looked for it. Why? She wouldn't take any other clothes. If she was planning on leaving you, she wouldn't pack a suitcase.
And a passport. So it would be more convincing to be like, she took a bag and took her clothes and passport and left.
Yeah.
What a weird thing to say.
I saw the safe open, which is where we store cash and passports, and I saw hers was missing. But why would you know a bikini? It's
very bizarre.
It shows his arrogance. He's trying to paint this exact picture of her, and he's already so far gotten away with one murder. So,
yeah. Don't worry. She just filled her purse with cash and her one bikini and drove away.
Yep. And her car's at the airport.
So weird.
Why would you know that?
And it's at 9 p.m. But all day, no one's been able to get a hold of her.
Right.
And what did he tell the neighbor again? He said something to the neighbor too. Right?
He said similar, that she had taken the money and... Or do you mean the Aaron?
Aaron.
Yeah. His,
so she's out like running errands.
Aaron. Yeah.
It's something. Just, it doesn't add up. That's for sure.
No, it does not. As Cassandra later said, she didn't believe anything Drew said. None of it. Starting with his contention that he was home all night. And in fact, Cassandra knew Drew was lying about being home at 9 p.m. because she had herself stopped by the house around that time and Drew wasn't there. So if Stacy supposedly called him at 9, he wasn't there to get that call. It doesn't make sense.
Or is he saying she called his cell phone?
I mean, I guess, but why weren't you home?
Why weren't you home?
Because
Exactly.
you said you couldn't go to work because you didn't have someone to watch your kids.
Yeah.
At 5.
Yeah.
Stacy herself knew the pain of having a missing mother. Her mother was never found. She's still missing to this day. Family members would later insist that because of that, Stacy would never, ever leave her own children by choice. She wouldn't do that.
And she had said she wanted to take them.
Yeah.
It's not like she had been talking about running off without them before. Right. She had been talking about leaving with them to her sister.
Yes. And that was her plan. And she wasn't talking about dating someone else either.
Or running off with somebody.
Right. Stacy's aunt, her name's Candace, said, when you have something happen in your childhood, a lot of times you try to do the opposite. She knew how that felt. She would never do that to her children. And that context is crucial. It undercuts Drew's later claims that Stacy simply ran away to be the same and do the same thing as her mom earlier, even though the family doesn't think that her mom ran away, but she was missing and they never got closure. So why would she do that to her own children?
Yeah.
And that is where Drew's story starts to crumble. Investigators later learned some fascinating details that cast doubt on Drew's whole account for that day. But that is where we are going to leave part 1. Part 2, we will... I'm very sorry.
I'm invested. I want to know what they're going to find because I have my own thoughts, but
I am excited to hear your thoughts too. When we come back with part 2, it's available in your feed right now. We didn't want to leave you hanging, even though I'm going to leave Laura hanging.
Yes.
And we will cover the timeline, what investigators found, some court things that come up. I will tell you, Drew is in prison right now for the next 70-ish years. It is and it isn't.
I was really,
yeah.
Well, I was really hoping you weren't going to say that he's still free and it's unsolved. And
he's not free.
That's good.
So, yep.
Maybe.
Well, yeah. I mean,
we'll see.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Crime Clueless. We are so grateful that you spend your time with us. If you want to see the resources that we used to create this episode, you can look at our blog. We list all the resources. We give pictures, an update on the case. That's crimeclueless.com. You can also listen to our episodes there, learn more about us, whatever you so want. If you found this episode interesting or have questions, comments, connect with us on social media. You can find Crime Clueless on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. Just search for @Crime Clueless. If you have case suggestions or cases you want us to cover, send us an email. We are crimeclueless@gmail.com. And finally, we would like to ask for a rating or review. It really helps the show. It's free, fast, easy. You can give a rating on Apple or Spotify. You can give a review on Apple. Or if you haven't already, go subscribe to our YouTube so you can see these cases in video form.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. As always, remember, refuse to be clueless, careless, or caught off guard.
Not today, murderers.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.